Every man who gets blindsided says the same sentence afterward. I never saw it coming. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You did see it. Your mind just edited it out. Attraction doesn't just blind you, it rewrites reality. Dark psychology calls this selective perception, when desire filters out threats before they reach conscious thought. That's why the warning signs feel small. At first, harmless, coincidences, nothing worth ruining the vibe over. Your brain protects the fantasy at all costs, because if the fantasy dies, so does the emotional investment. So you ignore gaps in her story. You reinterpret inconsistencies as privacy. You explain away discomfort as insecurity. And the most dangerous part, you feel confident while doing it. Tonight, we're dismantling that illusion. Not with games, not manipulation, but with observation so sharp, it makes deception uncomfortable. Because the moment you stop chasing how she feels, you start seeing who she is. And that's where the real danger begins. Here's where most men get trapped without realizing it. Early success with women creates false authority. Dark psychology calls this illusory competence. When past wins convince you that you understand the game, even when the rules have changed. If women came easily to you, you never learned to vet. You learned to attract. And those are completely different skills. Attraction rewards confidence. Vetting requires skepticism. So when something feels off, you don't investigate. You assume control. You think, I can handle this. That single thought has destroyed more futures than betrayal ever did. You stop paying attention because you believe you're immune. You believe options protect you from consequences. But options don't protect judgment. They weaken it. Men who struggled early learn caution. Men who succeeded early learn arrogance. And arrogance creates blind spots so large, red flags disappear inside them. The question isn't whether you're confident. It's whether your confidence is making you careless. Because what you miss next will cost far more than attention. When men finally sense danger, they make a fatal move. They start playing games, pulling back to trigger chasing, withholding attention to test loyalty, creating distance to regain power. Dark psychology exposes the flaw instantly. Power games reveal nothing about character. They only reveal who adapts faster. The moment you manipulate, she stops being real. She becomes strategic. She performs instead of revealing. Now you're not learning who she is. You're learning how she responds under pressure. And that information is useless, because a woman who feels tested doesn't show truth. She shows survival. Real insight comes from safety, not tension. People reveal patterns when they're relaxed, not when they're defending themselves. Here's the irony. Men who play games think they're gathering data. They're actually corrupting it. You can't study behavior in a laboratory, you're sabotaging. So while you think you're screening, you're blinding yourself. And the more you push for control, the less truth you'll ever see, which leads to the most painful discovery of all. The worst pain doesn't come from what you discover. It comes from when you discover it. Dark psychology calls this delayed revelation. Trauma, learning, critical information after emotional commitment locks your judgment in place. That's when the ground drops. A past she minimized. Patterns she never mentioned. Stories that suddenly don't line up. Your body reacts before your mind does. Sleep disappears. Appetite collapses. Focus fractures. You replay conversations like surveillance footage, searching for the moment you missed. And then the real damage hits. It's not just, who is she really? It's, what does this say about me? Men don't break from betrayal alone. They break from realizing they committed without clarity. And here's the cruel part. The information was available the entire time. You just didn't demand it. Next, we expose why attraction actively sabotages your ability to see truth and how to counter it before it costs you everything. Attraction is not neutral. It's hostile to judgment. Dark psychology calls this affective bias, when emotion hijacks logic and quietly edits evidence before it reaches awareness. When you're attracted, your brain becomes her defense lawyer. Quiet becomes mysterious. Emotional becomes deep. Inconsistencies become misunderstandings. And the more attractive she is, the more aggressively your mind protects the story. This is why men swear she's different. Not because she is, but because attraction demands uniqueness to justify risk. Here's the test that breaks the spell. Remove yourself. Imagine your best friend dating her. Same behavior, same history, same patterns. What would you warn him about? That answer is the truth attraction was hiding from you. Because attraction asks one question only. How does she make me feel? Vetting asks a harder one. What does her past predict? And once you start asking that, the fantasy starts fighting back. There's a trap that catches good men more than bad ones. The hero fantasy. Dark psychology frames it as savior. In projection, believing your presence will override someone else's patterns. She's had a hard past. Bad relationships, chaos, regret. And something inside you says, I'll be different. That feeling isn't love. It's ego wrapped in empathy. You confuse potential with reality. You fall in love with who she could be instead of who she's proven herself to be. But patterns don't disappear because you care harder. You can't rescue someone from habits they haven't abandoned. You can't stabilize someone who survives on instability. And once you become the rescuer, you're trapped. You can never relax. You can never be equal. You can never stop proving your worth. The darkest part? The more you give, the less she respects it. Most men avoid one thing at all costs: direct questions. Not because they don't matter, but because the answers might collapse the illusion. Dark psychology calls this avoidance conditioning. Your mind learns that ignorance feels safer than certainty. So men say, I don't want to pry. I don't want to seem insecure. I don't want to kill the mood. But here's the reality. If basic questions about her past end the relationship, you didn't lose anything valuable. A woman ready for partnership isn't threatened by clarity. She welcomes it, because transparency protects both of you. Ask about her longest relationship. Not what happened, but how she explains it. Does she reflect? Or does every ex become the villain? Ask about family dynamics. Not perfection, patterns. Ask about goals and timelines. Then watch whether her behavior supports her words. People reveal themselves fastest when asked calmly and directly. And what she avoids answering is often more important than what she says. Next, we expose the silent mismatch that destroys relationships long after the honeymoon fades. Here's the silent killer almost no one talks about. Misaligned intentions. Dark psychology calls this goal asymmetry. When two people use the same relationship for completely different purposes. You think you're building a future. She thinks she's stabilizing the present. Everything feels fine at first, because both of you are getting something. You get affection and hope. She gets security, validation, or relief from chaos. But misalignment doesn't explode early. It waits. It waits until sacrifice is required, until pressure appears, until a better option shows up. Then the truth surfaces. Watch actions, not declarations. A woman who wants marriage prepares for it. A woman who wants children structures her life toward it. Words are cheap. Preparation is costly. If her behavior contradicts her stated goals, believe the behavior. Because when intentions don't match, the relationship doesn't end peacefully. It ends suddenly. And next we'll uncover why movies and romantic myths quietly train men to ignore every warning sign until it's too late. Romantic stories didn't just entertain you, they trained you. Dark psychology calls this narrative conditioning. When repeated, stories program expectations so deeply that reality feels wrong when it doesn't. Match the script. Movies taught you love is supposed to be hard. Songs taught you sacrifice proves devotion. Culture taught you the right woman will transform with enough patience. So when things feel heavy, you don't question it. You romanticize it. Struggle becomes meaning. Chaos becomes passion. Disrespect becomes complex emotions. This is how men ignore obvious danger. They mistake intensity for connection. Real relationships aren't dramatic. They're stable, predictable, boring in the best way. If love constantly hurts, it's not depth, it's dysfunction. The fantasy demands blindness. Reality demands observation. Men who win let the fantasy die early. Men who lose defend it until it ruins them. Because the longer you protect the story, the harder reality hits when it finally breaks through. Next, we finish with the one discipline that separates men who repeat mistakes from men who never make them twice. Every man who's been burned reaches the same crossroads. bitterness, or wisdom. Dark psychology reveals the difference is pattern extraction, the ability to turn pain into protection instead of resentment. Bitter men blame her. Wise men study themselves. What did you ignore? What questions did you avoid? Where did attraction override evidence? This isn't self-hatred, it's self-respect. Write the lessons down. Because attraction erases memory faster than time ever could. Build boundaries that don't collapse under desire. Standards that don't negotiate when chemistry is high. Watch patterns, not moments. Performance fades. Behavior repeats. Time is the ultimate truth serum. No one can fake consistency forever. Choose from abundance, not desperation. A full life makes you selective. Scarcity makes you reckless. Learning about a woman's past isn't control, it's responsibility. Ask early. Observe quietly. Verify patiently. Because real love isn't blind. It sees clearly and chooses anyway. And the man who chooses with open eyes is the man who never gets blindsided again.
Be happening.